What's up, everybody? Josh from the lab here, and tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about the Delphi case, which is a absolutely fascinating case. I think what makes it as interesting as it does is the secrecy of the case. It's been shrouded in secrecy since day one. Mostly because they didn't have any answers, and then even when they got the answers that they thought that they had, that they're working with right now, you can't watch the trial. You have to get an account of it from reporters that who are doing an excellent job of it. Absolutely, it's just, of all the cases that I've been paying attention to in the Leilani Simon trial, and I'm so glad that that's over with and that she's been found guilty. I didn't pay attention to it much because I just thought that she was guilty, and that me paying attention to the trial, just to me, it was really up to the jurors, and I had already felt that way about it. There are details that come out that you find out about where, she's sleeping with her drug dealer. None of that stuff surprises me, and I don't even care about that stuff. All I care about is that, the fact of the matter is that she discarded young Quentin into a dumpster, which was taken to a landfill, which was then compacted, and then people spent 40-something days digging through trash to find her little son, which she denied having anything to do with. She's guilty, and hopefully spends the rest of her life in prison, or whatever sentence they give her. I just, like I said, it wasn't really a trial that I was that interested in, only because I was already, my mind was made up, and like I said, it was up to the jurors. Now in the Delphi case, Delphi is such an enigma. It's such a weird case because initially you have a different, I believe, Ron Logan or something along those lines. He owned property near there, and they were pretty sure that they had a good hunch that he was possibly the guy, and they go and serve a search warrant, and nothing ever comes of it. And the case really does go cold. No real updates. I mean, they would hold these press conferences where there would be this, I call it bravado, not saying that there's anything wrong with it, but that's kind of what I felt like it was. I felt like it was, we know, we've likely interviewed you. You possibly could be in this room. Everybody remembers that. If it turns out to be Richard Allen is the guy, they were right. But how they came about to Richard Allen was kind of the weird part, is that, you have this guy, Richard Allen, 2 days after the murders, contacting some Parks rep, or what, I don't know exactly what he was, but I don't believe he was an official. Maybe he was an official cop, but I don't know. I can't remember his title. But Richard Allen goes to him, meets him in a parking lot somewhere, blah, blah. And then his statement and all this stuff says cleared and either misfiled, or, I've heard a few different things, that it was misfiled, that he was cleared, that they mixed up the name of the street, or they added the street that he lived on to his name, so on and so on. It just seems like a huge lapse in judgment, because, there were witnesses saying that there was a man out there, and then you have Bridge Guy, and then Richard Allen's like, yeah, I was out there that day around the times of the murder, but I didn't see anything except for a couple of people. And I don't think Richard Allen comes forward to talk about him being out on the Monon High Bridge that day, unless he was pretty sure somebody saw him. Now, he doesn't know that they can't identify him. They don't know who he is. They just see this guy. Eyewitness testimony, though, is always sort of sketchy. But the one thing that is for certain is that there were 3 people that saw a man out there that day. Richard Allen claims that he was out there, or puts himself at the or around the scene of the crime when it happens. And, but, you know, doesn't say that he has anything to do with it. And 5 years, nothing, until a clerk or file clerk or something recognizes that there was a mistake, reads it, says, oh, this guy says that he was on the high bridge that day, takes it to the investigator. They talk to Richard again. No arrest. They take him home. But soon after that, they search a house. Then he's arrested. And then that's really where the story gets really, really odd and even more creepy and shrouded in secrecy again. Because the jail and the conditions that they claim that he was in, him confessing many, many times to this horrific crime, then him drinking out of the toilet, smearing feces, masturbating in front of guards, things like that. Just a bunch of just things that just are, they're horrific. And I think that I don't know if this is true, but I think the guards were kind of saying that it was some sort of an act. It's hard to say. I mean, anybody, if this is the guy, anybody willing to kill 2 little girls in cold blood like that, I would think that they would at some point probably drink out of a toilet. I don't know. People are crazy. They do crazy things. They say crazy things. But was he only doing that for possible defense down the road? I mean, he confesses all these times, but then, today you hear about this confession from the psychologist. He gave his account of the murders to her. He's going so far as to say that the only reason that he didn't sexually assault them was because he saw a white van drive by. It just so happens today that a man that owns property under the bridge there was driving home around 2:30 that day in a white van, right in the time frame of when the abduction and murders take place. I don't know how Richard Allen would have any idea that a white van drove by at 2:30 that day unless he was at the scene of the crime. Now, I understand people say, well, there's 0 DNA evidence that links him to the crime. I don't find that odd. I think it's less than 10% of all crime scenes produce some sort of DNA evidence, especially crimes that are committed outdoors. Now, you got to understand that he would have 5 years to dispose of or replace or wash 100 times. I don't know, but the man says he's out on the bridge, that he wears clothes. He's wearing clothing similar to what the bridge guy was wearing. Then they have a cartridge that was cycled through his gun, and not just, it's not a bullet, it's a cartridge. It's the all-encompassing of what makes bullets bullet. It was unspent. It was an unspent cartridge, which sometimes happens if you have a full clip and one in the chamber and you cock it back, and it will expel that cartridge. it just so happens that the markings match his gun. I mean, and he can't explain how a bullet from his gun gets there. Now, people will argue ballistics. They will talk about how, but it's used a lot. It's absolutely something it's science that's been used a lot. Now, anytime anybody's got any sort of, even DNA gets questioned now, you know, I mean, you'll see that in the Koberger trial when that happens, that they will absolutely go after the way the DNA is tested. They'll go out. I'm sure the defense will have something to say about the fix being in with the Indiana State Crime Lab or something along the lines. I don't know, because the confession that he gave today to the psychologist, you know, they're going to go at her credibility. And right or wrong, that's just how it works. I don't know how Richard Allen could know about the white van. I don't think that there's some grand conspiracy to railroad a man 5 years later, after all the criticism that the police and the FBI and the state police have received. I don't see why the fix would be in for Richard Allen. Confessing that many times, you know, I don't know how many excuses you would really have to make for somebody, you know, like they would say, well, it's a coarse confession. It's not his bullet. He was out there, but he wasn't, you know, he was checking his phone for stuff. That's another thing that I always found weird, is that they would keep all their phones, but the phone from that time was missing. I mean, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence but there's also physical evidence. That gun or that cartridge is physical evidence. Him placing himself near or at the scene of the crime, wearing clothes similar to Bridge Guy, if not exactly the same, is evidence. You know, and we'll have to see how the defense goes about it from their case. But I mean, it's an uphill battle. I mean, you got a guy that places himself out there. He's got a bullet matching a gun he's got a cartridge matching a gun that he owns. He's admitted to wearing the same type of clothing. And then you have confessions on top of that. How many of those confessions are coerced or generalized, and how many of them fit with something only the killer would know? The box cutter from CVS, stealing it from his place of work and then discarding it there as well. The sticks, you know, and people are going to say, well, they had access to this or they had access to that early. And, you know, you can make as many theories of how that happened, but he is saying things that nobody else knew about, you know. The white van thing really gets me. I think that's a crucial piece of evidence, testimony. But we'll see, you know. I think Richard Allen's the guy. I don't know if he had help or not. I don't know if he was in some sort of ring. I have no idea. But I think he's the guy. I think he was the guy on the bridge. I think he is Bridge Guy. I think that that he's going to be probably found guilty. But you know, stranger things have happened, and I've been wrong a lot. So we'll see. And yeah, it is. I did want to watch this trial, but you know, such a circus as it is, it's just it's hard to blame them for not broadcasting it. But I really do look forward to those interrogations. I'll tell you that. And I'll talk more about those in another video. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Joshua Diaz, and this is The Lab. Thanks.